Okay, welcome back. Another exciting, thrilling episode of Black Eyes on White Movies. And leading the way, I am kicking us off, your host, Aaron Covington.
Back kicking from the middle. I am Amana Doomer.
Wow. So many options now. Roundhouse kicking from somewhere. Bernard Harris.
Nice.
And this week, the movie we're doing, No Hard Feelings, starring Jennifer Lawrence, a recent movie. So I say the title, and you're like, wait, I never heard of this movie. Then I say Jennifer Lawrence, and you're like, oh, when she was a kid. No, it's her new movie that you saw the preview for about her. Well, let me read the log line. Let me read the log line, and then you'll remember it. On the brink of losing her home, Maddie finds an intriguing job listing. Helicopter parents looking for someone to bring their introverted 19-year-old son out of his shell before college. She has one summer to make him a man or die trying. Why did it get so serious at the end? Or die trying.
Or die trying.
Yeah,
I don't think death was on the table in the movie.
Definitely not.
Her in a do-rag and a G-Unit tank top. We here. What? We can get the drama popping. We ain't scared. She's not scared to engage with this young man in this manner.
Yeah. I feel like it added unnecessary stakes at the end, but yeah, of the log line. But that's pretty accurate, spot on to what the movie is.
For sure. Black movie of the week. Kind of a tough one to kind of match up anything with this movie, or to think about like a raunchy kind of or cringy kind of Black rom-com. I did wonder if you guys had thought of anything before I say what I'm going to go with this week, what I'm going to recommend, if anything came to mind at all. I didn't ask you guys beforehand, so I'm springing it on you, just seeing if something had sparked.
Yeah, no, I didn't automatically go to cringy rom-com. I went to just comedy that's like a little cheesy, which of course led me to Scary Movie 2. So that would be my Black movie pick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bernard?
That's a good one. Let's see. I definitely kind of was like thinking about it while I was watching the movie, but nothing really came to mind. But as you were just talking about it, I kind of felt like The Wood maybe is the closest thing that I could think to like a teenage coming of age, slightly raunchy comedy.
Yeah, I can see that take. I'm gonna go with two things kind of came to mind. I'm gonna go with two can play that game, which is kind of more classic rom-com style, but it flips the tropes. Vivica Fox and Morris Chestnut, and it's literally like men do this, so she reacts in a way, and then he's like, well, women do this, and he flips it and reacts away, and it's kind of a really playful back and forth in the movie. As far as like a cringe and the kind of matches a dynamic with like the woman's kind of going after the guy, which is not exactly what this movie is, but in a way, the film Norbit, Eddie Murphy's course.
The legendary.
Really a strange movie. Has a few laughs in there. I'm not necessarily saying go out and see Norbit. But I saw it at some point. And it is what it is. That's all I can say. If you watch it, that's your choice.
That's a crazy caveat.
You made the choice to watch it. But two can play that game. I highly recommend. Classic rom-com feel and style, flipping the tropes, but you know, it still works out in like the classic way.
Yeah, those work.
Yeah. So let's get into back to No Hard Feelings, and let's start with general broad thoughts about the movie. Did you like it, or that kind of thing? Or just what did you think about it? You know, not did you like it? Like you didn't have to give a five
Yeah.
star. It just broad starts. Amon.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it. It was fun. Um I did not go in expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. It was it made me nostalgic for a time where they used to make these kind of R-rated comedies.
Yeah,
Um and it brought me back to that time where, all the Judd Apatow movies and everything else. Uh, in fact, so much so that I was like, was he involved? I looked into who created it, and I found out it was the director and the writer he wrote on The Office, which I thought,
yeah,
oh, that's interesting.
That is interesting.
Um, yeah, so I was a fan. I regret that I didn't see it in the theater because I want to encourage this great movie industry to keep making these kind of movies.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But no,
I would broadly agree with Amon. Like, um, I wasn't going into it negative, but certainly enjoyed it more than I expected to. Um, I thought there was a lot of, I thought there was a lot of humor that was decent, but I thought there was a few moments, especially here and there, sprinkled throughout. Like it didn't really run out of moments at any point in the movie. There was always a little something that would actually get me to like really laugh.
yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, no, I enjoyed it.
yeah. I'm gonna echo all of that. This has had a real throwback feel as far as a comedy and like a teen sex comedy. In a movie that was kind of billed as like a raunchy thing or this risque premise,
Mm-hmm.
but the movie had like really downplayed a lot of that. It really
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about sex. There weren't big sex gags. It was less hangover than I thought it was going to be, for sure.
Mhm.
It had a lot of heart. It was sweet,
Mm-hmm.
and it did have that kind of 90s throwback feel where it's like this kind of ridiculous premise of two parents wanting somebody to have sex with their son because he's an introvert. Not just an introvert. It's not like that simple. It's just like a modern kid who's like been bullied or been embarrassed and spent his time at home, and his parents are a little overbearing, a little overprotective, as we call them, whatever those terms might actually mean. And they put out an ad for somebody to have sex with their son, which is super ridiculous. But the movie stayed pretty grounded and didn't take us down a path of just like sex here, sex there, sex in your face. You know, it
Mhm.
really there was only nudity even in one scene that wasn't as funny as I think they thought it was going to be, but
Yeah.
which comes out and fights these other teens on the beach. I was like, oh, maybe I could have. That one kind of fell flat, but there were laughs throughout the
Yeah.
movie. The way they played the young boy, or they made him 19. He's like a 19-year-old senior, so it wasn't too creepy, but it was still
Right.
creepy.
It was still creepy for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But the way he was, the way he played the role, so credit to him as an actor and the way it was written, it really brought a lot of laughs. The parents, I mean, Matthew Broderick just looking like Gandalf, like an old.
Yeah, it wasn't the look. It was not the look.
He was just so funny looking, man, as a dad. And the way they sprinkled in the side characters without like feeling the need to give us each person's story. It's like it's her story and his story. So everybody just kind of served there. And a surprise appearance by the homie Kyle Mooney as
Mm.
the old nanny, the
Mhm.
former nanny of the young boy. Kyle Mooney, I used to work with him
Yeah.
back before he was on SNL in the archive department at USC for like a semester. Really cool guy, really happy to see his success. And he was really funny popping up in this. And the homie, who I don't know, but the guy from The
Mhm.
Bear, cousin.
Oh yeah, cousin Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Cousin from The Bear, the cooking show.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. I
And
just heard
he's always
cousin.
like, hey cousin.
Hmm. He was great. And then
Yeah,
yeah,
he was funny. Yeah.
Hassan Minaj too.
Hassan Minaj popping up for a scene.
And
Hmm.
a great scene, like when he, drops the punchline there about like,
Yeah.
I married, you married the teacher? No, I married Mrs. And he says his own last name. I married her. And like the way he says, oh man, so
He's like,
good.
they don't tell that part. Yeah, because he was like, he's a real estate agent, so he meets Jennifer Lawrence, or he goes to her house and he's like, "Hey, remember me from high school?" She's like, "No." He's like, "I used to run track." No. It's like, "I'm the one that had sex with the Spanish teacher." She was like, "Oh yeah."
Hmm.
And then they're like, "What happened to her?" And he's like, "What happened to Mrs. Walsh or whatever her name was?" He's like, "You mean Mrs. Khan? We got married." Nobody tells that part of the story.
Yeah. Such a good
Great bit.
line and such a
Great
great
bit.
delivery.
Great
Hmm.
delivery. That was funny.
Yeah.
Um,
This is one of those movies that and all of this was part of the reason it made me nostalgic for those movies where you'd be like, oh yeah, just all the guest actors were funny
Mhm.
comedians that you just pop in.
yeah, just pop in. You can trust it for like a scene or a couple scenes, a couple lines
Hmm.
to deliver.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it in like regards to maybe some of those movies of the 2000s necessarily, but yeah, like Old School strikes me as like a movie like that where there's just like so many like little guest side characters and they all just have like a really funny scene.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's how you get introduced to those people. I remember
Mhm.
watching those back in the day and being like, who is this person? They are crazy funny.
Mhm.
And finding
What just
their
what just made me think is it does seem like, I mean, it is a tough era for movies and theaters, especially non-blockbuster movies. But this movie doubled its budget,
Mm.
made for 45, which also seems high for this movie. There was nothing
Mhm.
yeah.
$45 million on the screen unless Jennifer Lawrence cost 30 million. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's got to be that. Yeah, I can't see otherwise.
But the box office was it's 87 million.
Hmm.
This came out in June. We watched it on Netflix in October. So, that quick turnaround is always going to be kind of unsettling to me. I know if you're a younger generation, that's just normal. Like movies come out and then they come out again
Right.
on streaming or on. So you used to have to wait like maybe a solid year, especially in the
Yeah.
days of Blockbuster. You'd be like, oh, I remember this came out last year, and it'd be the new release on the block in the
Mhm.
Blockbuster section.
Right.
So I think that's an issue that studios and movies are dealing with.
An
And
issue in
especially
that, in what way? That it's not making as much in the theater?
that everything is devalued
Mm.
Huh.
for the sake of technology. And they can always say like, "Oh, this is what people want," but I don't know that it is. People like DVDs. People weren't like, "I need something different than DVDs." Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, your local stores were making money.
Mhm.
So it wasn't like people were like, "We don't like this." It's that somebody said, "We got a new technology,"
Right.
and they pushed it out. And the forces that be keep telling us and keep kind of forcing us in ways to take part in the new technology. The same way they update your phone every year, and you're like, I can't use this old app anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
eventually, you're going to choose convenience. Anyway, people are going to choose convenience, or even still, convenience can kind of make you numb to it. Like people probably watch fewer movies because it's so convenient. And then
Mhm.
there's a glut of choice, the
Mhm.
problem of choice that people have.
Mm-mm.
Like, well, I'm just not going to watch. I'm just going to go watch or go rerun or a movie I already got instead of like scrolling Netflix for 30 minutes to try to find a new movie to watch that I don't even know these it's
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then there's less money, there's no money being made on the home rental market, period, now. So they closed that whole loop of revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when a movie just came out and then it's on streaming, there's never going to be any demand. Like, let's say it still was DVDs, but they came out like a week after, like you're hurting the demand on both sides. There's no need to see it in the theater. But then because there was no period of time to wait, there's no build up to be like, I can't wait when this comes out on DVD. I got to show this to my friend who didn't see it or whatever. It's just like, it's just always exists then.
Mm-hmm.
And if we've learned nothing from like In and Out, it's that sometimes it's scarcity of choice is good business. Like, I don't think that this is, I'm way off topic now, but like, I don't know that the Cheesecake Factory would be popular if the name wasn't Cheesecake Factory, because their menu is so big. But you already know when you're going, like, whatever I get, I'm finishing it with some cheesecake, you know? And even if you don't want cheesecake, it's still, that's what it is. They have a singularity from the name. If it was just called the Food Factory, that it would not have lasted. You know what I mean?
Right. The Food Factory.
It's
God,
like, just
I
come in
want.
and get some food. We got all the food. We got a 20-page menu. Be like, what am I even looking for? Like, what am I doing here?
I need to see in someone's movie, comic book, something, a scene where they're in a parody restaurant called The Food Factory.
Remember that scene in Black Dynamite where they were like chili and donuts, and then it
Yeah,
became a
Roscoe's Chili and Donuts.
waffles? That's what it would be. The Food Factory is like doing no business. And then somebody's like, all we got left is cheesecake. And they're like, man, y'all should be the Cheesecake Factory.
Bingo.
Bingo, got it.
Definitely.
But yeah, this movie. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's something we've talked about in the past, and I think you guys have maybe talked about it in the past on the show. But like, I always think about the loss of like the cheap theater chains or the cheap theaters. Like, that's the thing about all of this that I'm just like, not only do I get nostalgic for, but I also feel like, why would you actively close that revenue stream? Which is, I'm sure younger people understand it, but like there used to be a lot more cheap theaters back in the day where like if you didn't catch a movie in the first 3 months, because a movie would be in theaters for at least 3 months, if you didn't catch it within that time, it would go to another theater chain that was like a discount theater, and it would be maybe $5 a ticket, right? Anyways, point being is like there had to be something that they were still gaining off of, that people were still paying money for tickets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, and those theaters were great for families, especially family can't make opening night all the time, So, and it
you
was
got
great
4
for
kids,
college students and young 20-year-olds trying to feel like, I'm trying to work,
Yeah.
I don't got a job, I'm in and out of work, whatever, I'm in school. Oh, I'm gonna go to the $5 theater. This movie came out last season.
Last
I
season
was
for
thinking,
sure.
I was in finals. I didn't have the cash for a date, but you can go to the $5 theater. It was a beautiful thing. Or the drive-ins. There's still one in LA, but there's only one. It's like, or in like the area where I live. So maybe there's a couple of throughout LA, but
Yeah.
we're also the biggest city in the like. We should have a couple. It should be more little drive-ins. People love those kind of excursions and save some money.
Yeah, they're like a novelty now. Like, they'll have a drive-in and it'll be a pop-up. Like,
Pop-up
oh,
drive-ins, yeah.
come check this out. It's like and I've been to a few of them. I saw T2 at a pop-up drive-in, and it was packed. People loved it. It was just, yeah, it felt special. Where you're like, oh yeah, this is a nice option to have. It's unfortunate that it's not readily available all the time. But
yeah, it's also funny how like those that do exist, you say like it's a novelty now, right? But those that do exist, like it's funny if you think about how many of them are so embedded into like that neighborhood's like culture and like just a neighborhood like staple, right? Oh, we really cherish this little theater, right? Or
Yeah,
this thing. And it is, it's like that shows you how much people really enjoy that experience. That the few that are left, they really hold on to.
yeah, it really
Right.
does become a neighborhood spot in a way that a regular movie theater probably doesn't. But this movie is interesting because it really does, in a way, even though it's not talked about a whole lot, but I think it was big when it came out, and we see it made a lot of money, of kind of cementing Jennifer Lawrence's star power,
Mhm.
star appeal. Because that's the only thing that makes this movie happen. There is nothing else. I mean, this writer director is has a solid career so far, but a lot of
Mhm.
the work he's done has been like underappreciated. Like looking at his career, all his TV shows were like solid shows that didn't quite last for one reason or another. But he was a writer on The Office. That's not his show, but he was a writer on The Office. He did this show, Hello Ladies, which was a
Hmm.
good show on HBO that did like 2 seasons. And he did the
Yeah,
show
that's good.
Bad Teacher, based off the movie, I think, which had a season. And he did this show Trophy Wife. Those are
Mm.
both network sitcoms that had about a season, had about 15 to 20 episodes each. You know, that didn't get that second season. Then he did the show Downward Dog, same deal. And he did this show Smilf, which was a Showtime show that got embroiled in some controversies, why he got canceled. But
Mm.
all along the way, these are like solid projects that just didn't quite catch on for whatever reasons of the time they were released. And he has a couple movies. He did the movie Good Boys from 2019, which I remember that being hyped a lot. And that made a lot of money too. 110 million, 111 million on a $20 million budget.
Who was in that?
Good Boys was the kid.
Yeah.
It was like three young boys, like 12 years
Mm.
old, who like got into some mess. And they were like, I can't remember what they were trying to do, get into a party or something, and ended up. It was very much like a, what was the Jonah Hill movie he did?
Super bad.
It was very
Oh.
much like a young super bad. These kids were
Mm.
Mhm.
even younger, and they were getting into all kind of hijinks.
Gotcha.
So he has a proven track record of like success and knowing comedy and doing kind of elevated comedy as they call it. But that alone wasn't getting this movie made. Jennifer Lawrence got this movie made.
Sure.
And I think it had seemed like she had kind of been out of the spotlight for a while, but when I look at her career, she still has a movie out every year.
Yeah. Yeah. She's going the route of like the auteur movies, where if like Darren Aronofsky will do a movie, she'll be in it. Or
Yeah, she did that movie Mother. That was the name of
right,
that.
Mother, and I don't know if she was in Amsterdam, but she worked with that guy a lot. Uh,
She did this
the
movie last year called Causeway.
Hmm.
That was like, I think, an Oscar front runner. I think Brian Tyree Henry got nominated for an Oscar for that movie.
Oh,
And it was
mm,
very much like a slice of life. They were living in like New Orleans. Kind of a similar character where she was down on her luck trying to like put her life together,
right.
but it wasn't a comedy. It wasn't a comedy like this. So I guess shout out to Jennifer Lawrence. Like
Yeah. Shout out to J Law.
she
yeah.
can J Law
J
like
Law.
Mhm.
like a video game character. Was that a Tekken character? J
It does
Law?
sound like something like that. Something like that. It's
But
interesting
for
though,
her,
because I was just gonna say how she started out in that space, right? Like she's definitely one of
yeah,
those
Winter's Bone.
Winter's Bone, right? So always kind of stay true to
She
that art
became
tour.
she kind of became one of the franchise leaders.
Mhm.
And when they rebooted X-Men, she was doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
She was, of course, and she was the Hunger Games. Like
Right.
she was the Hunger
Mhm.
Games original trilogy.
Mhm.
Um,
She was such
impressive.
a big actress in the that X-Men had to bend the mythology to front,
Give her a
to
bigger
have her
role.
be the front. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
As Mystique, which was like, what?
Right.
Star
You
power.
don't
There's a bunch of
pay
David O. Russell
her
movies.
to
A lot
not
of acclaim for that
be
too.
her.
Yeah, she did like Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle
Mhm,
and
mhm.
David O. Russell. So they got a little trilogy together too. Just tight,
Mhm.
tight for them. Well, yeah, let's talk like specifically about this movie. Get into the premise of like parents. Or what does this say? I guess going back to kind of the premise of our podcast and the basic backstory and premise of the movie, that these parents have this kid who has no friends, as they say, and then he later says all his friends are online, who is kind of very naive and very just kind of inept at anything outside of his bubble.
Mhm.
And parents or society kind of creating this bubble. What do you guys think about that as it exists, as far as you know, in the culture, in our culture now, this digital culture that we're,
Mhm.
so enmeshed in?
Sure. You know, I definitely feel like there's a little bit of a, I think millennial, like everybody in this is kind of like millennial aged, in this like film or whatever. And there's this kind of, I think, generational critique, or maybe even generational critique of the parents too, as well, right? Some self
Yeah,
critique in that. But yeah, like there's definitely a lot about the helicopter parents, right? They're definitely kind of skewered in this. I thought it was really interesting also that just like Matthew Broderick, like his role within like the history of this genre, from like Ferris Bueller to like Election to now
yeah,
this, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
That's
But
funny.
anyways,
So that's a
yeah,
great commentary because the Ferris Bueller, he was the rebellious kid, and we did that movie early on in the
right.
pod.
Mhm.
He was a rebellious kid who, but he knew how to do a lot of stuff. He was very competent.
Hmm.
But then in Election, he was kind of incompetent, but he was like the teacher, the young teacher. He wasn't a parent,
Hmm.
what you would consider parenting age of like a teenager. And he was embroiled with the students. And obviously, that movie is that's a classic. Watch Election if you haven't. And then in this one, he's the helicopter parent. He's on the other side, and he's a completely different kind of character. That's really interesting. That
Yeah,
would be a crazy feature.
Mm.
he's the rebel teenager. Then he's the figure of authority threatened by the teen, and then
Yeah,
lastly, he's the out of touch parent.
out of touch parent.
Mhm.
You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
How much is it like the parents, and how much is it society
Hmm.
that would make a kid like this? Because he tells a story that he was in a school, and I mean, it's a funny story when it was said so serious. But when I thought about it, I'm like, even at the time, he said, "Okay, I was in school and word got around that I sleep in my parents' bedroom."
Right.
And
Right.
then that rumor just escalated to the point where like, oh, he sleeps with his parents. Oh, he, sleeps in their bed. And it just kind of escalated. And that's when he got so bullied so much that they had to transfer schools.
Mhm.
And it's like, is that, is that, like, I wonder if that's a commentary on bullying in a way, or is that something that would have happened in almost any era, a kid that's like, I don't know, he didn't say what age it was, but I'm guessing like sixth, seventh, eighth grade.
Mhm.
And age definitely where you get made fun of for sleeping in your parents' bedroom if you're like, I was scared and I came in here to sleep, 12,
For
13,
sure,
14.
somebody's gonna
It's
make fun
like,
of you.
oh, 15, whatever. In high school freshman, it's like, yeah, man, that's that's a hard one to that's a hard one to get over.
That's a long
Uh-huh.
road to walk for sure.
Yeah, you got to move towns at that point.
See, even
You
we're like,
gotta
hey,
get
man,
out.
there's little hope for you if that's the situation.
You gotta
That's the situation.
that's the ejector seat. You got to get out of that. Rip the cord.
But it is like, so the parents, I don't know, it's kind of just kind of confusing in my brain because it is kind of like
Hmm.
there's no broad category of parents that would have probably done that in the past, where now it seems like they're the kind of parent that would allow that. But there, I'm sure there are individual cases at any point in history that allowed that or encouraged that or even asked of that of their kids. You know what I mean? So it went from like the weird family in the 1950s to now it's like, well, this is something to parody because it's something we believe a class of parents would do.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think you know, and you make about a point about, you know, people throughout time. I think there's probably, if you go back, even literary examples of like somebody making fun of like a quote unquote mama's boy like trope, right? I can't think of this kind of, but
Yeah,
this trope
that kind of
and
thing. Yeah,
that kind of thing, and I'm sure people will talk about being overparented in some whatever way that makes sense for them at that time. But yeah, it is interesting that this is like the take that this movie takes on kind of parent. I
right.
thought the young actor who plays the kid, the 19-year-old kid, I thought he did a very good job in performing this character that made the kid seem individual, right? Like not like a trope necessarily, but like, oh, this kid specifically is dealing with these issues. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
Mhm.
And he tells you a lot of times the specific reasons that happened in his life. So I thought that was pretty well done. Um, but yeah, like I guess the thing that strikes me is like there's a couple parts where he's like in the bedroom, they're in the bedroom towards the end, and like he's got his like weekly pill counter on the nightstand behind him. And I
yeah,
thought a lot of times throughout the movie, I was like, there's something that this kid is dealing with that is a little bit maybe beyond, you know what I'm saying?
they couldn't
Right.
Just
quite get into. Yeah,
they chose not to quite get into, but like because like some of his like level of like really being socially awkward was like kind of outside of
yeah.
even
Mhm.
nerdy kids,
I
Yeah.
mean,
whatever that means.
go ahead, Amon. What we can say?
No, yeah, I agree. I think they were adding some dimensions to a character type we've seen before and making him a little more realistic and closer to like someone you actually know.
Yeah,
Um, and whether that is a commentary on like the over prescribing that happens in modern day society with kids, or
right.
like a commentary on, yeah, it was kind of hard to figure out where they were landing, what they were saying with with this type of person. He seemed like a sensitive kid who um, would easily, be more comfortable around dogs and animals because he worked at the animal shelter.
Right.
Um, and it seemed like the parents were trying to make up for coddling him his
Yeah,
entire life by trying
they
to,
were dealing with this guilt, and they
yeah.
could see the future. It's like, oh, he's going to college.
Hmm.
Can't he can't he can't survive like this. But the one thing that kind of allows those things, like his other issues, because this kid definitely had a therapist, right? Like
Oh yeah.
those things that kind of fade to the back is that they were on vacation in Montauk, which is
Right.
a place like it's like a beach city, and I think in the Northeast where rich people vacation in the summers. Like that was the whole thing. So it was funny to think about this movie and the way it really started off. It was like gentrification from a white a white person complaining about gentrification. You know,
That's funny that you say that, because there was one part early on in the movie that really like stuck out to me, which was when she and her friends are like hanging out on the beach. I think they're smoking or something like that. And they're all kind of talking about how the rising prices of the gentrification and these city dwellers coming out and buying their vacation homes in Montauk are affecting them all in different ways. And at that point, the Native American actor, his name is Zach something. I can't
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Great,
Legend,
absolutely wonderful on Reservation Dogs. But yeah,
He's in everything with like all the like the native shows popping out. He's the go-to guy, but he always
go-to
delivers
guy.
great,
Always delivers.
a great face, a great comments, like his whole thing. So,
And I really liked him in this one because like he was playing a really regular modern guy, which was cool to see as well. Like,
yeah.
but anyways, so many of his characters have quirks, or either they're in the past. But anyways, there's a point where he turns to the group and like looks at Jennifer Lawrence and says, "Yeah, we're all the same." Like he says that like, or some version of that line. And I was like, I understand your meaning in the moment. You're all going through the same issue, and that's fair. But it was really interesting to have the one dude who's like visibly not white to say like, yeah, we're all the same and affected the exact same way in this gentrification issue.
Well, he said it with a look that was like, because I think right after he said his line, she was like, "Oh, I mean, you know what I mean." But like she had like a cover up to be like,
Oh, was it like
"I
that?
don't mean you guys had it worse." You know what I mean? Like, but he delivered it in a way that was like, "If it wasn't for this, I'd have no idea what you're going." Like very sarcastic, like
Okay.
history. Yeah, yeah,
Maybe I just missed the delivery then. Okay.
yeah. No, definitely check it out again. He was definitely like, if only I knew how that felt. You know, it was something like that.
Okay.
She was like, "Oh, right." So they had they layered in the commentary in that line for sure. Because I remember
Cool.
catching that too and rewinding it. He was
Yeah.
definitely being sarcastic with it. But it's funny, and there are pro white people, and when you have a beach town like that, the beach people end up, kind of getting run over, crapped on. This is they say it a few times, like this is the time of year where all the businesses make their money.
Yeah. I
Right.
thought that was really interesting when the one commentary for the bartender is like, if you want to be an asshole, or I think she uses the word bitch, but if you want to be an asshole, you know what I'm saying? Like you can do it in any other month, but not
Yeah.
June. Like
Not June to August. That's when we need the non-bid. So all these rich people are coming into Montauk and they take over, and this guy she dated had to tow her car because she can't make the payments on it, and she can't make the payments on her house. That's kind of the typical scene. They did it a couple times where all the past due letters are on the table, to signify somebody owes money. They do that a couple times, and then her car is towed, so she can't make money because she did a lot of Ubering. Basically, she made a lot of money as an Uber driver. She couldn't be an Uber driver, so this ad in the paper is date our son in quotations, and we'll give you a Buick Regal. That will pay you. We'll give you an old ass Buick Regal, which was funny in itself. But she's like, I need a car so I can make money to pay bills and keep this house that her mom had given to her. And a real sweet story that unfolds with her and her mom, and kind of the tragic of her dad, who was a rich person who visited Montauk and knocked up her mom and then disowned, was like, I'm not a part of that. That's not my family. So that's kind of the baggage she was dealing with. And it's interesting because at one point, one of her friends is like, why don't you do OnlyFans? And she was like, well, I don't want to do that and it'll take too long. But I don't know what the logic in the movie was where it was for that. And I think OnlyFans it's not just one thing. Like she could have got on OnlyFans and just been like showing her hands or her feet or something and probably made the rent. You don't have to be
right.
full full pornographic, I think, to make money on OnlyFans.
Yeah. But I think at this point she would have to. I think I read something about like the majority of people on OnlyFans like don't make any money. So
Sure. Like, yeah.
you would have to, she'd have to have a following to get them to come to OnlyFans to do the
Get the
thing.
following, yeah.
And she didn't seem like she had much of a following, you know?
Is
Or the discipline to sit in and create one.
That's exactly right. She need that
Yeah.
money fast.
it's funny, like I felt there was a lot of humor in the like very specific the very specific job ad that's like, oh, this weird crazy thing literally solves your exact issue. And like kind of almost that in and of a joke of about this like thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they have to kind of tear down some of the other like societal things. It's like, would you have sex for a car? And she's like, well, I'm desperate. And then they kind of have to explain that like her damage makes her not precious about sex, basically.
Mhm.
She's like, yeah, I've had sex with a guy because I didn't, they had to explain it to her friend's husband. Like sometimes you have sex, and it's not really about the sex. And you don't get money out of it. She was like, I had sex with a guy. I can't remember what she said exactly, but basically like to get out of going to a party or
Mhm.
because I wanted this or that to kind of
Mhm.
show the complexities.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a great little moment. I felt like hopefully that was taken from like real women's experiences because it felt like commentary on that. Like both of them going back and forth being like, this is what I've had sex for. And it's been less than a car. And it ended by one of them going, I had sex because I thought the guy was going to kill me or something like that. Like just so the guy, it was just like this dark commentary that I felt like, oh man, this is I wasn't ready for this level of meaning.
For sure. No, I think it's a wonderful moment where it's said as a kind of in a joking manner, and obviously then she's like talking about her husband as she's explaining it to
Right.
her husband, right? So
Right.
it kind of takes a little bit of the edge off of it. But yeah,
Yeah.
just as a kind of from a perspective on people having to do whatever they have to for personal safety, like to deliver that in a moment that's actually funny too. I definitely like marked that moment in my mind as well.
Yeah. But it all happens pretty fast. And this is another part of it being kind of a throwback movie. It's like, we know the premise, we know that it's controversial, but they take us through it relatively quickly. So all of a sudden she's at this dog shelter because, well, she meets with the parents, she takes the job. So she goes to the dog shelter to seduce him. And then we spend a few minutes with her trying to like convince this like scared, naive 19-year-old that she just met that she's into him and wants to have sex with him without mentioning, obviously, that he doesn't know about the parents' ad. She's just like, oh, what a coincidence. This hot lady wants to be with you. And he handles it like horribly. He cannot, he has no social graces, no awareness. And they do a great job. She ends up getting him in her van, and the van has like her friend's husband, all his tools and stuff. And the kid is like, thinks he's gonna kill her. She's gonna kill him. I thought that was a good scene. But the whole time he's just like, she's making advances and he's just, comically fumbling them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun that they have in that whole sequence.
Which made me think, and you really see this a lot on social media, and I know every generation of kids is like, doesn't know everything. We didn't know everything, when we were kids, our parents when they were kids. You're not supposed to, you can't. They say the human brain is not even fully developed until you're like 25. But we weren't this sloppy, this sloppy. This kid, and I don't remember exact like scenes or lines, but he was just so bumbling. And when I say you see it on social media, it's like kids will be like, it'll be a picture of like old famous people that are pretty like famous that people you would think they know, and kids would be like, who is that? Or they'll be like, oh, that music or that show sucks. It was trash. And it was like coming from such a inexperienced mind, and it's really like frustrating. It was frustrating to watch this kid at points be so unaware, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Where, yeah, to the point where she initially started coming at him in like a badly written porn way of like,
Right.
everything you say, I'm going to try to twist as being like, oh, that's so hot and so sexy and this. And
Right. Yes. To that point, not to interrupt you, but she
yeah,
wasn't great at this either. So
nah, she wasn't great because she didn't think she'd have to work. She was like, why is this taking so long?
yeah.
Uh, and the kind of forcefulness that she was coming with it, I could totally understand why he would like turtle up and be like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't know what's happening and I'm good. I'm used to dealing with dogs.
Yeah.
So,
He's working on
yeah,
animals. Literal dogs was what he was more comfortable with.
yeah, truly.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think that initial sequence of them like getting to know each other, well, not even that, but them meeting each other and like
Yeah.
she's like pursuing him. There were parts in that where I thought it went a little long and the movie started to lose me, but it did kind of bring me back in with just some of the zaniness of the scenes that they kept bringing, or things kept happening. But yeah, he was not able to do it, and neither was she. It was a very awkward, humorous situation that just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And within that, it got pretty funny.
It was funny because it was funny when he gets out of the van. He sprays her with mace.
Yeah.
He gets out of the van and she makes a joke. She was like, "Why didn't you use your dog whistle?" He was like, "Why would I have?" Or his a rape whistle. He was like, "Why would I have one of those?" She was like, "Why do you have mace?" And I thought that was a funny line. And then she was like, "Get the hose," and he brings the hose, and it's not on. And she's like, "You got to turn it on." It was like those kind of basic things. I'm like,
Mhm.
man, kids don't ever be outside. You don't have to be outside because we created these
Mhm.
digital worlds that you can
Yeah,
spend out. You can spend your whole day wearing yourself out,
yeah, yeah.
playing
And they're,
games, creating on your computer and being on your phone and stuff.
yeah, and the digital world that they've created and the bubble they've created is all about control. And so
Wow.
and when they're outside of it, anything outside of their control is just like it's overwhelming, like too much. I need to get back to my bubble. And
Control.
That's interesting because that really implicates his parents, right? And they're trying to control the uncontrollable. This one thing, they're trying to control how he even loses his virginity, right? They're doing it
Mhm.
from
Yeah.
like a place of like worry and concern and good intention. But yeah, it really is a display of control then. Wow.
Is that what we're all? Because I was thinking about this last night. We're gonna get off topic and then go into casting. And not that there's not more to talk about with this movie, but it's pretty straightforward. They have this fumbling experience first. Then he's like, "I'm not really ready to have sex." Well, it goes further. They end up at his house, and he's just not ready. He's like, let's talk." And she's like, "No, you're right. Yeah, we're talking." And so they end up getting to know each other. They formed into this friendship, and it's really sweet at that point. And then basically he finds out what happened, so he's really hurt. He finds out his parents put her up to this, and she got a car, and he's really hurt. And it collapses, and then they come back together as friends at the end. They never have sex. And there's actually a good scene where she's like, "Well, he's mad," and she's like, "I'm sorry," and then they try to have sex in like a very like strained way, and he just prematures all over on her
Mhm.
thigh,
Mhm.
uh, which I thought was done really well as a dramatic scene in this movie. That really made it seem like something was that was kind of going well was broken, but it had to be broken because he got too attached, which was also inevitable in a plant like this, you know. But the control thing was interesting because we're in the era of invention for convenience. We're not inventing or innovating for necessity anymore. They haven't been for some time. You know, we're just improving upon things that already exist. The cell phone, we had telephones. You know what I mean? The internet. Well, we have mail. Well, you know, then now we have email. So it's just makes mail more convenient. You know, or that's the way of looking at it. And I always wondered, like, why is that? But is it a factor of this desire for more control over any and every aspect of our lives? I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And really speaks to like the speed at which technology advances and the prevalence of AI now and overwhelming, like, you gotta use AI, everything is AI. But how much convenience do we need? And how much control do we desire?
Yeah, that's real. I was reading is this it was like a book on this one director, and he talked about coming from no money to getting a lot of money, and he described that you'd think like the convenience increases with the more money you have. Like you have the convenience of the car is going to be ready the minute you go downstairs because the driver's there. Like this is going to be this, is going to be this. And he said it does not connect at all to feeling fulfilled or feeling happy. In fact, he became less patient the more money he had. So any little inconvenience turned into a blow up of like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have eggs? What is this? So he became like probably a worse human being to be around, right? And it's because of the convenience. And the more we fall into like every kind of thing is leaning towards making things convenient for us, I feel like we'll fall into like, oh, okay, so now we have no patience for anything else, and it'll spark.
Same thing with control, you know. When you have control the majority of your time, and whether it's in your digital world, and that convenience is a form of control too. Like you were talking about, if you have a driver, you paying this person, so you feel like you have some control over them. Chef, you know, or maybe even your family becomes transactional, and then when you think when something bucks against your control, it could be the smallest thing, like, why isn't the trash taken out? Ooh, you know, you start, you know, you flip out, you know, because there's just, you know, the smallest loss of control. And it made me think about, you know, humans are animals, you know, we're intelligent animals or whatever, however you want to say it. So we very much, but the animal part is very much a reward-based psychological system that we all live in. Like when you're training your dog, you give them a treat, you give them affection. These are rewards, you know. When you celebrate, you know, oh, I did something good, I'm gonna get a piece of cake tonight, or we're gonna have a party. We're reward-based. And I wonder if the push for like AI, or even if, you know, I've read some books about science fiction about the melding of humanity and AI. Will that eliminate a reward-based system? Because do computers don't need rewards as motivation or as a driver, you know? What does that do to our chemical levels or the psychology of even being an animal, being a human animal? this is things I was thinking about, kind of unrelated, but when you talked about control, I was like, it's kind of all wrapped up in the same thing.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder about that, right? If even with a melding of some sort of computer thing, like the animal part of us is just the physical part of us, right? Like
Right.
in
And
order
it's,
to
yeah.
in order to get the meat computer of the brain to work, it has to send these impulses that result in reward and desire and reward. And if that even, as long as it's as long as there's a meat part of you, if that's even possible to go away, the sense of like wanting something and then the reward of getting it, I wonder.
Because a commentary from this movie is like, what was his reward system? Sex wasn't really a part of it.
Yeah.
You know, he was really skinny. Food may not have really been a part of it. Like it was just kind of maybe just being online or the dopamine, serotonin, whatever rushes from tasks online, tasks in the house, or even maybe the reward system is lowered. And not that I don't know what the correct reward system chemical process should be, but having his life under control was his reward system. It's like everything is the same. Parents are taking care of everything. You know, it's such an even keel that it makes sense that when anything happened, it would throw him off, you know?
Yeah.
My bad. It's interesting to think about that, right? Because then you get to see within this kid, and like, look, it's Jennifer Lawrence's movie, not the kid's movie, but he does play a big role. But like, you get to see in this kid, like the places maybe where he found some reward systems that were kind of free of his parents' control, right? Like his job. I would say this kid, him and dogs, that was probably a big reward for this kid. You know what I mean? Or even like clearly he's had piano lessons and there's things that he enjoys doing within the piano lessons, even if it was done for his parents, desire or whatever. So it is interesting to think about like, what was this kid's reward system and like, where did he find it anyway? Where did he create it anyway?
And then when he met a classmate who was also going to Princeton, right? They ran into his classmate. He clicked like a regular kid. Like in that instance, she was like, "Oh, hi, it's so good to see you." He was like, "Oh, it's good to see you too." It was, you know what I mean? He didn't delay. He wasn't socially awkward any more than any other teen was. So he kind of reverted to like a human animal instinct of like, "Oh, this is a peer. We're on the same level, same interests." Even though he's clearly dating Jennifer Lawrence here, he completely forgot about this old 30-year-old lady, 32-year-old lady, and was like, "Oh, my peer, I'm just so naturally super interested in her," like almost like a baby talking to an adult, and then another baby walks by and they're like, "That's another baby. I'm gonna go make with the other baby."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Shout out to them for just jamming a Hall and Oates song in the middle of the movie at the restaurant. That was tight.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Like, it's a good moment, bro.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm on.
I was just going to say the on that, it's like how he started getting close to Jennifer Lawrence, which led him to, kissing and like actually feeling intimate, was through like real vulnerability, like her being open about herself and him being open about himself. And when he's around the other kid his age, it's like, oh yeah, I could just be myself around this other person, or I can be myself around these dogs and this sort of thing. And so I feel like part of that reward system is like he wants to be accepted like for who he is, and wants to be like a part of a part of a community, a part of a group. And it even connects to, if you remember, at the beginning of the movie where Jennifer Lawrence was meeting with the parents, and she was like, "So you want me to have sex with your kid? Like, are you sure he's even like straight?" And they go, "Oh yes, yes, we have his internet history. Like, we see what he watches, the adult videos he watches, and it's a lot of group sex videos." And I'm like, "Hey, there's a connection there. He wants to be a part of a group. He doesn't want to."
Yeah.
He doesn't want to
He's not
stand
trying to
out.
jump into. He's not trying to jump into an orgy. He's trying to feel like he belongs. He's like the camaraderie of a group scene. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. You search what you always deepest want. Um, I think it's really. I thought it was really interesting. Like hearing us talking about it and thinking back to the movie, like it makes me wonder, like as a part of this control or whatever, like what is just the, and also the societal piece, what is just the narrative that this kid's being told? Because he says he has no friends and he behaves in awkward ways because he's unsure of what to do next. Not necessarily because he doesn't know, but he's unsure, right? Because he clearly knows, like you said, when he deals in some of these things, he's completely confident. And it's like, he says he has no friends, but the kid that at his job is clearly his friend. Like that kid's like going to war for him. You know what I mean? Like he's helping him getting into all the shenanigans. He clearly has a friendly relationship with the young girl that he sees at the restaurant, and they continue a conversation that's clearly been ongoing. They've talked to each other before. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, they have no, even if they're not hanging out at this point, they've known each other.
they've known each other. They know what's going on in each other's lives.
Yeah, and in general ways. So it's not, she's not a completely new person. She's just like, oh, I haven't seen you around. I didn't know you were here this summer, or that kind of thing.
That kind of thing. So it's like I just wonder, like, and I'm relating this back to Jennifer Lawrence's character too. Like, what are the things that they're being told about themselves that the relationship they have together allows them to see past? Because he's more confident at the end of this because she helped him see something, and she's more confident in her path because he helped her see something. And this is interesting to think, like, what are the systems of control that have been placed even by just the narratives? You're a poor townie, you can't do this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or you're a kid who's got these issues and you don't know how to connect and have no friends, because they both had it. It was already there.
Yeah.
And before you guys, I just want to shout out the scene in the restaurant, probably my favorite scene in the movie. That young actress does such a good job of just dogging the hell out of Jennifer Lawrence for being old in such a nice way. So good.
Oh, the Asian girl when she meets.
Yeah, such a great scene. Good performance.
Yeah, that was so funny. That was so funny. Nice to meet you, ma'am.
She just doesn't let up every time she turns.
On top of what you just said, yeah, it's true. And then what are the narratives that the parents are saying about the boy? Like, it all started because they expect him to be a certain way before he goes off to college. They're like, when I was this age, I was doing this, this, and this. So I need to make sure my boy is right before we send him off. And because he's this, this, and this, whether they actually truly know him or not, you know?
Right. This kind of pre-prescribed of how you're supposed to be, that we're all living under in some way or another.
Yeah.
And trying to break free of. Because at the end, which I thought it kind of wrapped up a little too neatly to really be a full throwback movie. Sure. Or it like went too far. It's like, you could have ended on just a different note. Like, she sells her house to her friends. I'm like, at 32, 33, I don't know if you sell to your friends. I think you sell to the highest bidder. I'm sorry, but because your friends, if they couldn't keep where they were living, they're not gonna be able to keep. They're gonna be gone in 4 years anyway, and you're gonna be in California. You're not coming back to visit. She's embarking on a whole new life.
Right.
I would have sold to the higher bidder and got that extra 20, 30K. It's times these houses, hey.
Yeah, this is 2023.
But it was a sweet, and it was like bringing everything together, which I appreciate as a storyteller. But she's going out into the world, no debt. Now she's got a windfall from this house. About to drive across country to California to surf. And that's a life she could have, she could live at any time in a way. Like, it's kind of like an amazing gift for her how this movie ends. But it's like you said, because of who she thought she was and her personal baggage, they really unpack that in the movie. she couldn't imagine a different life for herself.
Mhm.
Even at the start of the movie, she was just going to get this money, pay the house, and keep living there, and that was her whole life, you know. But through this experience, she was able to let go of waiting for this absent father. That, you know, the way that he could have found her was always coming back to Montauk. So she let go of that and was able to see a better life.
Mhm.
For him, he's just going to college, and his parents kind of won. His parents kind of won.
Mhm.
They kind
Yeah.
of got what they wanted, even though he didn't have sex. He had enough. He had an experience that kind of fortified him for living away from them. Even though the scene where he was trying to get his suitcases out of the house was a good little bit of physical comedy at the end.
Mhm.
But it's like, oh, he's gonna try, and they can't help. They
Mhm.
restrain themselves, and it was like a perfect small encapsulation of like, okay, he's gonna stumble, but people stumble. That's
Mhm.
how you learn. And I think even in regards to like bullying and stuff, teaching each other how to deal with the aftermath is kind of what's missing, I think, in a lot of that discourse. Mentally, also tangibly, like things you can actually do. Like if there had been a way for them to figure out for him to deal with this rumor that had spread or
Mhm.
to handle it internally, that's a different set of conversations that would have built different muscles in his brain to handle obstacles in the world. But I guess, yeah, his parents are kind of evil geniuses. It didn't go exactly how they wanted it to, but it also got the same result that they wanted. So shout out to Gucci.
uh, One thing, before we jump into casting, I wanted to bring up was I thought the kind of the commentary of like her running into the party and like she's going room to room and she's like, is nobody having sex here? It's like kind
Yeah,
of
none of
like
the kids, all the kids were on their phone. They did a commentary on that. She
right. They're
said
all
something to like the bully kind of, and then everybody was like, "Was that a gay joke?" And so they started filming her. Like
yeah.
very small commentary on that part of society in the movie, but I think it was effective though.
I think it was effective, but I thought, that was funny. But I guess I'm bringing up just the idea of like sex being kind of at the heart of this movie, right?
Right.
It's supposed to be the thing that I don't know. It's supposed to be this like becoming a man, right? I think his father even says that he's got to become a man or something like that. But it is kind of interesting that like the movie ends and while like you said, they don't have sex, they do have a close sexual experience, right? Like they're naked,
Yeah.
um, and all that. And I thought that was a really interesting commentary, maybe on some social ideas too, that like first and foremost, like the awkwardness of sex or any of these things is not a complete exclusion to having a meaningful relationship that doesn't include it. I thought that was a really kind of interesting thing that just because he didn't get her, they didn't get together because it was awkward. They didn't like go away to never see each other again. They ended up as like still knowing each other intimately and having a real meaningful relationship for the both of them that clearly seemed like it would, at the very least, continue in communication.
It made me think that the younger generation definitely wants romance. They just have no idea how to get it. And by romance, I guess, especially after hearing you say that, also just mean like an intimacy, close, meaningful, real relationships and conversations. He got lucky in this movie in that he had an older person teach him, but everybody doesn't get a teacher in real life, and most people's parents aren't capable. Like it's hard to talk with sincerity to people. That's a skill. I think this is why talk show hosts make so much money and why we have so many have had talk shows, for the last 40 years of TV, because to get people to be real and talk earnestly and sincerely is a skill that's not part of people's day-to-day lives. But through this experience, he was able to get that. But I do think that that is something that younger generations constantly kind of asking for and calling for when I'm on social media or seeing like their response to movies. Um, they just need to be shown how to do it. And this is also a shout out to the old sitcoms. 'Cause I think because old sitcoms used to at least have like, as silly as they might be, they have a very special episode.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And those were episodes that you could be like, oh, this is how families can talk about these things.
Mm.
You know?
Mhm.
In just a broad general sense. I'm not saying everybody takes their cues from sitcoms. I'm just saying it could be in the cultural zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
And we also would have like a lot of melodramatic or family movies, soapy kind of movies that would do this. That would be big hits, like Terms of Endearment or something. You know what I mean? And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is how a mother-daughter relation, like this is how they can talk about these things, you know?
Right.
But when we're getting a lot of like reality TV stuff, or like there's a show about somebody cheating on something, you learn those languages through the
Mm-hmm.
media, you know? You learn the language of campaign rallies. That's how people start talking in regular life. Like, why are you being so bombastic? Because what's been on TV the last 3 years is just so and so's campaign rallies doing that. You're not seeing sincerity expressed, even in the music. You know, I was on an 80s music kick, and I was like, the thing I like about 80s music is how sincere it was. They meant what they were saying, and they said it hard as they could, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
A lot of music now is just, I mean, I'm not making a commentary on any one kind of music. I see it all across the board, but a lot of people are just kind of like mumbling through it and like, or they're singing but they're not singing hard. You know what I mean? I don't know that they mean what
Mm-hmm.
they're saying or if what they're saying even makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's another comment. You know, we're all over we're commenting on all of society on Black Eyes and White movies. You know,
Mhm. Of
all levels,
course.
cultural messaging. You know,
Mhm. You thought we were going to
Definitely.
just talk about a movie, but nah. Psych.
Yeah, sorry.
We're talking about life.
got you.
It's a process to take it back before. It's a process.
Let's run through casting. Casting is harder on like modern
Mhm.
movies because it's like they exist in this time, but it can always be fun to play around. So let's go through a
Sure.
little bit of casting, see what you guys came up with.
Oof, I don't have a lot of casting. This was a tough one for me to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just got the main two actors and then the parents.
That's really enough. I think everybody else's part was pretty interchangeable. I
Yeah.
don't know that anybody else had more than, I think the best friend, who's Natalie Morales and her husband, they might have had like 4 or 5 scenes.
Right, right.
Nobody else had more than like 2 scenes. The ex-boyfriend, I think, had 3 scenes maybe. Hassan had 1 scene and then a scene where he was on a phone call with her to sell the house,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
which also was really makes me curious about the movie's budget because people were just dropping in. They only had like 1 day of work. These people, 1 or 2 days of work, other than
Mhm.
Jennifer and the young boy. So I wonder
Yeah. And
why
and
the
on top
budget
of
was so
that,
high. But
if you remember the beach scene where he's naked on top of her car because he thinks
yeah,
the phone is in there and she won't let him like get in the car, so she's driving with him on the windshield.
on the hood of the
Eh,
car, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that and I was like, this is a Subaru commercial because you could so clearly see the car and the brand and everything. It just looked and shot in like a
Mm-hmm.
commercial. So I was like, they must have got some money from this. Like,
Yeah, and from Buick, they said Buick Regal like 100 times in this movie because that was the car she got. Oh, and a comment on CGI at the end when she's on top of the car and he's driving because she's trying to like apologize or whatever, and then she catches on fire. That looks so fake. I'm like, CGI is ruining movies and ruining us. Like, if you couldn't do that practically, you should have just left it out, man.
mhm,
Just leave it out. The fire was so fake to me. I got a little mad.
that's fair.
I wondered the same thing about the nudity beach fight scene. Like something
Yeah,
about it, like because it was low light, because it was nighttime, but something
Mhm,
about it looked. I was like, I think this is a head composite. Like,
yeah, yeah. I don't
mhm.
think that's her body in all these shots. It was weird.
it was kind of weird. Yeah.
Maybe
That's
that's
it.
where the budget was going. Hey, we're figuring it out. We're cracking the budget.
Exactly. ILM did
You got to
400
render this
shots.
2 minute scene. It's $15 million for every 2 minutes to render the scene.
Yeah. And she
Did
could,
you-
if she wanted to, she could be like, hey, composite me.
Yeah,
Yeah, get it done.
I don't want to be butt naked on a big screen. Yeah, the idea that CGI was going to save productions money. I mean, who that still boggles my mind. But anyway, casting. We at least got the lead and the two leads. So who do you got for Jennifer Lawrence? I'll go first this time. I never go first.
All right.
This was our casting, so I just kind of kept it simple. I went with Lupita Nyong'o.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
She's really funny. She's done a couple of this Little Monsters comedy movie she's done. It's really funny. Done a bunch of little indies. Obviously, she's a superb talent. I would like to see her in like a little movie like this, actually.
Mhm.
Lupita, here you go. Here you go.
Yeah, that's solid.
Wanna go
I can go
first?
next.
Yeah.
I went with a friend of the pod, friend of me, teammate, Lacey
Oh,
Mosley.
Lacey. Yeah, we used Lacey a few times lately. We gotta get giving Lacey too much love here on the pod, but she's also super talented and super funny. Like, shout
Yeah.
out to Lacey Mosley.
Oh yeah.
There
Beat.
was this was kind of tough because I think there's a lot of good choices, but ultimately I just went Quinta Brunson.
Yeah,
That's cool.
funny.
Yeah.
I think
Super
she's
short, but you know,
super
you just shoot
short.
around that. You just shoot around that. She just, she makes up for it with her comedy chops.
Yeah, she's
Exactly.
good at like
Faces. She's like the best at like faces. Like, whatever she does.
and she's good at like that kind of awkwardness of like when you're an age and you don't like you're like is this an adult decision or am I still making a child decision? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I feel like both of you are getting your budgets. You're getting the green light so far.
here's hope.
For the young man, the only one I could think of was Ao Idibiri from Bear Chef from Bear. She's too old really for that role, but maybe my movie is more about two women connecting from an ad in a different way for a different reason, slightly.
Mm.
And I think those two would be really funny together. So that's what I went with. That's my casting. You're telling me that movie's not getting made? Ao is hot right now. Lupita is a legend. Like, let's go. Whatever the premise is, we'll change it up. That movie's getting made. Let's go.
This is straight up exec talk. You're like, we don't even need a script. It's just it sells on paper. Just
Just give me a location and put these two in there. It's simple,
easy. I went with for Percy. I went with just it's always hard to figure out young actors, but I went with Alex R. Hibbert from Moonlight,
Ooh.
the young Chiron.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
a good one.
Definitely like to see him in more things.
Yeah.
Oh, he's in the Shy. He's been in the Shy the last 7 years. Shy still we're going strong. Shout out to him.
Nice.
Shy. On Showtime. B, who you got?
Yeah, this one was harder for me. So if it's not just casting call, is maybe Dallas Dupree Young from Cobra Kai. He's like a year or two too young. He's 17. But it'll take a couple years for this to get off the ground, so it'll be all right.
There you go.
He'll age into it. But I thought he was.
I think that's just the right age. He was also in Cobra Kai, which was a show did about 5-6 seasons on Netflix. So shout out.
Yeah, he's great.
Dope. Yeah.
And Amon, you said you had the parents. I'm gonna go with Erica Alexander for the mom, who was Maxine on Living Single.
Oh yeah, legend.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Wesley Snipes for the dad because it's a dark. This is a dark skinned movie. Lupita, Ao,
Mm-hmm.
Erica, Wesley, everybody's dark. I'm going Wesley as a dad. Eric Alexander as a mom. Let's go. This
That's-
movie's getting made. What do I even need to write it? Like, we don't need a script. We need a loose premise.
Mhm. Anybody can write this. Anybody.
Anybody.
For the parents, I went with a guy who is hilarious, and I want to see act more. I want to see act in this.
Wait, let me get my shot glass here. We gonna cast. Is it a pod favorite?
I cast Big Pun. No, for Laird, for the father figure, I cast Gary Anthony Williams.
Oh, he is. Yeah,
he's so funny. I just want to see
he
him.
was in Undercover Brother back in the day, right?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he was in Malcolm in the Middle. He was in.
Sure, Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah, he's funny. Great voiceover actor too. A lot of voiceover work. Boondocks, among others. Who you got for the mom? Go ahead and give us your mom.
And then for the mom, I went with Kim Wayans. Just
Yo, Kim Wayans, bringing her back. I haven't
I'm
seen her
through.
in so long. I'm down with that, man. She was always funny.
Always funny. So yeah.
All right. Give us a couple parents real quick.
For sure. So for the mother, I think I'm gonna switch up the dynamic a little bit. The mother, I think, is gonna take a little bit more of the lead in this situation. Maybe a little bit more of the helicopter parent. But mother, I'm gonna go with Tracy Ellis Ross.
Mm-hmm.
And father, because I kind of want to see this guy as kind of a ditzy dad. Sterling K. Brown. So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm switch that up.
That's a great combo.
Yeah, I would like to see him in more comedic stuff. And
he's very funny when he gets that opportunity.
That would be great. That would be great. That's great casting. Okay. Solid movie, throwback kind of movie with a lot of heart. I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, very
For
funny.
sure. Sure, bring more of these movies back.
Yeah, in the age where, right now it's Scorsese's the talk of Hollywood, I guess, right now, with 3.5 hour Flowers of the Killer Moon. No disrespect to that movie. I'm sure it's great. I might go see it. I don't know yet. I haven't seen it yet. No hard feelings. No hard feelings. I guess the movie Bottoms was like a smaller comedy that was people really liked. Dix the Musical is a comedy that's out now. People have been talking about. So support smaller budget works also. It can't all just be blockbusters, or it shouldn't all be. Or blockbusters should mean something. It shouldn't be a blockbuster every month. You know what I mean? It's like if the Super Bowl were every once or twice a month.
Right.
We got the October Super Bowl, and then November we got 2 Super Bowls. Like, I don't even give a crap about the Super Bowl no more.
No, not anymore.
Not the commercials, not the halftime, nothing.
Right. Scarcity, like you said.
Scarcity, a top economic principle that has slowly forgotten in the age of convenience. Well, join us next time as we lament on the failures of technology even more.
On the fall of 21st century.
Fall of man and the rise of the hybrid man, the human AI robot hybrids that we're doomed to become.
The robots are after us. Yeah, listen to our
Simple rom-com got us the most talking about robots and AI technology.
That's true. Join us next week for the podcast hosted by AI versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
We're just gonna chat GPT the whole pod.
Truly. And then we'll listen back and go, damn, man, we made some good points.
Yeah.
Man, that was good.
That was our best episode. How can we compete?
Right. Birth our own competition. Yeah.
That would be the end experiment, is the AI version and we do a live version and release them both at the same time and then compare. Not
Yeah.
even like compare how many people listen, because that's can be kind of skewed. It's such a gimmick, but you just compare the content of each one and be like, man, they were just smarter. They stayed on topic a lot better.
Yeah, truly.
Thorough. They didn't meander. So it's tight.
That'll be our modern day, like John Henry, like us versus the AI, trying to see who.
That guy's versus AI. Oh my God.
Mine was a little fascist, but you know what? I'm willing to just.
They spent 20 minutes on Israel and Palestine. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they missed the mark.
With some questionable views, but I'm not gonna.
Exactly. I don't know what that had to do with Babe 2. Pig in the City. But you know what?
They're just working out. They're just working out
Yeah.
working it out.
It's a lot of content that feeds those things. You never know, man.
You just never know. Yeah, where it's coming from. All right, wrapping it up. Thanks, and talk to you soon.
Later, guys.
Peace.